Hey, this is Greg, and in this video, I'm going to demystify the process of creating custom frames in Canva. A lot of people think you have to start with a vector shape, and then you have to go to Figma or PowerPoint or Illustrator, and it's this really convoluted process. No, it's actually really easy, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in this video. And if you watch to the end, I'm going to show you what you can do, what you should do after you do it. What are the organizational steps you should take after you create a custom frame? All right, so let's get right to it. Okay, right now on screen, I have basically a square shape and then I have this drip edge added to it. And imagine I want to take the whole thing and turn it into a custom frame, because we know I can come under the Elements tab, I can search for frames, and I can find a square frame, but I definitely cannot find a frame that has, exactly what I have on screen now. So basically the magic of custom frames is you can take anything you want and turn it into a custom frame. It can be something like this where you have a couple shapes put together on screen. It can be a photo where you remove the background. It can be text, okay? So no more going under here and have limited options. Now you can have unlimited options, okay? So just how long does this process take? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how quick it is, and then I'll explain it more in depth, okay? So the first time I'm just going to run through this quickly because I want you to see just how fast you can take something from Canva, go outside of Canva, free program, custom frame, bring it back, custom frame in Canva. I want to show you how fast the process is, and then we'll talk about the steps to make sure you understand the steps. But first, right now, I'm just going to show you how fast I can take this and turn it into a custom frame. So ready, start the clock. So I'm going to start by exporting this. I'm going to export it as a transparent PNG. We'll save it in this first spot here. We'll go ahead and save it. Now I'm going to jump over to Photopea. I'm going to open that from my computer. So here is that design. I'm going to open that design. Come under my layers. I will select it. I'm going to turn this into a vector path. And then I'm going to go layer, vector mask, current path. And then all I have to do is export this now. So export as a PDF. So PDF right here. Make sure these are not checked here. Go ahead and save that. Now that's getting saved off. We'll save it off right here. I will jump back into Canva. I will grab that from my downloads. I'll just drag it on screen. It's going to open automatically. So here we are. And now I can open this up into Canva and detach image. And look at that, in under a minute, a custom frame in Canva, basically in 45 seconds. So let me just show you, yes, this is a custom frame in Canva. And we created it from start to finish, leaving from the initial shape, leaving and then coming back into Canva where it's a working frame. It took us 45 seconds. So anybody that's telling you this process is hard, no, it's not hard. Now I know I went through that fast and it may have been confusing. So now we're going to slow it down. I'm going to walk you through the steps so you can master this process, so you can make this part of your workflow, because this really is going to open up a whole new world of creativity for you. And this is something that's not hard to do. You can master this. So I'm going to walk you through the steps now. Okay, so step one is create the shape, and usually this is something you could do in Canva. You could do it somewhere else, but usually you're going to be working in Canva. So create the shape. It can be anything though. So you could start with a photo and remove the background, and so maybe this woman, we want her to become our frame. So we're thinking about the shape of the frame, not the colors that we have here, because we're going to turn it into a frame. It's just going to be a placeholder for another image, another video. So we're thinking about the shape. So with that in mind, you could search for Canva elements. Maybe you search for something like splatters and you could put together something like this. Here's another example, just with a bunch of different shapes put together. So we have this rough edge. Underneath here I have a rectangle, but then I've put some sort of grunge effects on the edge. So we're just thinking about the shape. Now, of course, you also could use text as a frame. So we have a text element here, but then we also have a vector element. And this is actually a photo element. So again, vectors, photos, text, it's all on the table. You're not limited to just vector shapes. I hear people say that sometimes you have to start with a shape. No, you don't. You can start with anything at all, but then think about your composition and the shape, what is going to become the frame. All right, so that's step one. Now, step two is usually going to be to export this from Canva, because we're going to take it over into a free online photo editor called Photopea, which is like a lightweight version of Photoshop. And the reason why we're using Photopea is because it has a free version that's going to do everything we need. And even though it's a free version, it actually is really powerful. And certainly it's going to get the job done for creating a custom frame. And so usually when you do that, you're going to export here with transparency. So let's take this one here. I'm going to work with this one first. So I'm just going to go share and we'll go, actually, let's work with this one first, and then we'll do the other one. We'll do 2 examples. So this one here, so I'm gonna go share, and I will go download. And again, I am gonna download this with transparency. I could always knock out the background in that other program, but if I can do it right here, why not just save myself a step? It's gonna make it easier to select the part that's gonna be the frame when we get into Photopea. So I will download this as transparent. And right now, I just wanna do the current page that I'm working on. So that's page 4 here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download that, and then we're going to open it up into this photo editor code called Photopea. So I will show you that step now. Okay, so here we are within Photopea. Now this is at photopea.com. This is just a online photo editor, and if I go under account here, you can see that there is a free version of this editor which comes with all features. Now if you go premium for $5 a month, you can turn off some ads and stuff, but I don't think that's really necessary, and we're going to just be working here in the free version. Now, you're not seeing the ads because I'm recording in my screen in such a way that they're just off the screen to the right. So when you work in Photopea, at the very right of your screen, there's going to be a little column where you have a couple ads are playing, but it's not really that big of a deal. And of course, we're just jumping in here to do this task of creating a custom frame, okay? So you don't even need to sign up for an account in here. You don't need to do anything. You just need to come to photopea.com, and then you're just going to click open from your computer, and we'll grab that file that we just created in Canva. We brought it in out of Canva with transparency, so it shows up with transparency here. And because it shows up with transparency here, that makes it really easy to turn this into a selection. So how are we going to select all the pixels that are part of this image that we want to be our frame? All we have to do is hit Control click. So we hold down our Control key, and then we click with our left mouse button on this background. Now, if you're on a Mac computer, instead of the Control key, you have the Command key, but in that case, you would hold down the Command key and just click on this background. Now, you can also select some other different ways in here, but we're just going to focus with this easy method as we're teaching you this for the first time. So Control click, everything is selected. It's kind of hard to see with the colors here, but you have sort of these marching ants around the outside that just show you that you have a selection on screen. Now, when you have that selection, you're going to jump over to this little tab down here. So you have layers where you start out, but then you have channels and path. Then this next step is you jump over to this paths icon here, this paths menu here, and then you can come down to the bottom and you're going to see this little option, 1, 2, 3, 4 options in. It's going to go selection to path. So if you just stay over it with your mouse for a second, again, that's just outside of my screen. You're not seeing where it says selection to path, but it says selection to path. And if you click on that, then suddenly those little marching ants on the outside have turned into this blue line, right? That lets us know that we actually have a path now in our document. Now, the only other step you need to do is you come under here, under the layer menu, and you go under vector mask and then current path. And it takes that path we created and it turns it into a sort of a vector mask here. So we went layer, we went vector mask, and we went current path. So now we have this little icon here. Because this shows up in gray in here, this lets us know that we have a vector path. Now these are just little details I'm giving you. You don't need to know all this. You just need to remember the process. And we're going to go through this process one more time after this so you'll really lock it in, okay? But because we have this vector path now, that means when we export this as a PDF, this vector path is something that Canva is going to recognize and import as a frame. Okay, so final step now that we've done those steps, is all we're going to do is we're going to come up here under the file menu. We'll go export as. We're going to choose PDF. That's important. We need to choose PDF. And then in here, it's important that we don't check any of these. These could potentially, mess things up. We don't want to do that. We're just going to leave all those turned off, and we're just going to export it as a PDF, and we'll save it off somewhere on our computer, save it off, and then we're going to bring it back into Canva. Now, I like to just grab, if I have a browser open, let me resize this down so you can see everything here. What I like to do is you can use this upload button and you can find that PDF that you just created, or let me slide my screen down slightly. On my computer, I'm using the Chrome browser, and anytime in Chrome when I download something, I can get to it real quick when I just downloaded right here. So I just like to drag it in right there because that saves even more time. Let me reposition this screen again, slightly again. And so that's just an easy way to bring it in here. It'll bring it in right here under recent designs. And if you click on it and it opens it up, you see the way it just flashed. We see already that we have created a frame. And of course, if you right click on a frame, there's an image in it. You can click detach image. You can throw that out. So now we have turned that just like that into a frame we can use in Canva. Of course, we can come in here under our uploads and other things. We can grab a photo, drag it in and see, yes, this is a working frame. Okay, so hopefully you see that this process is really easy. Now let's just go through one last example just to lock it in for you. Hey, this is Greg. Please excuse this brief interruption. We'll get right back to your video, but I just wanted to jump on here real quick and tell you that I do have a new course on mastering special effects and animation in Canva for anyone looking to take their Canva design game to the next level. This course is the culmination from teaching Canva to tens of thousands of students all over the world, and in this course I'm going to demystify the process of creating custom frames. People always explain it as being this really hard thing. No, it's actually really easy. I'm going to show you just how easy it is in this course. I'll teach you how to create custom frames of all sorts. I'll teach you how to create custom textures and overlays, and then we'll learn how to combine these things about animation. We'll learn about all the animation tools in Canva and how to get the most out of them, and then we'll learn how to couple Canva with another free tool that's really going to let you push all your designs beyond the limits of Canva. So if any of this sounds like it might be of interest to you, I'll put those details down below in the video description below. You can check it out at your convenience. Again, sorry for the interruption, and I'll send you back to what you were watching. So again, we're going to come back here, and I also exported this one here. So I'm going to open this one up in Photopea, and we'll go through it one more time just so you understand the process. And this one I'll also show you once we get it back into Canva after we've turned into a frame. I'll show you how you can get really creative with your frames, okay? So let's work through this last example. So here we are back in Photopea again. So I'll just come to that file menu and I'll choose open. Again, navigate and find that other item we wanted to turn into a frame. So we'll open that up. And again, same process, come over here on the background, just control click to select it. That would be a command click on a Mac, control click on Windows. Jump over to the path menu. You're going to find 1, 2, 3, 4 in this one here, selection to path. You're going to click that. You get the blue outline now around things to let you know, yes, I've turned it into a path. And then we're going to go from there and we're going to turn it into a vector mask. So we're going to go under layer, we're going to go vector mask and current path. But before I do that, let me just jump back here to this menu here, and I'll actually put a new layer on here. So I'm going to do a new layer, and I'm actually going to fill this layer with black. So I'm just using some keyboard shortcuts that I know in here. So Alt backspace is going to fill with that foreground color, and so now we can clearly see that path we've created in that last step. And now when I come in here and I go under layer and I go under vector mask, current path, now we'll see what that mask is doing. It's just clipping everything from that layer. So since I did it over that black layer, we see that it's all just being clipped down. So this initial thing we brought in, that doesn't matter anymore. That's just creating the shape, right? And so now this is representative of what our mask is going to be when we export this back and bring it back into Canva. And again, once again, you notice we get a gray mask here. Let me just show you one thing. Let me just create a new layer. I'm going to fill this again with all black, and I'm going to just do a selection tool in here. I'm just going to select something, and there's also a way you can create a mask inside a program like this, and you can go ahead and create one that way. Let me turn off this other layer so we can see better, but you notice this one here has a black mask, right? So that's a raster mask. We want to make sure we get this gray icon here, and if you follow the steps I've been teaching you, you're going to get this gray icon, and that is what we want. So then final step, you're just going to come here under the file menu. You're going to export as a PDF, and we're going to go ahead and leave all these checked off. We're going to go ahead and click save. We'll go ahead and save that off, and then again jumping back over to Canva. Here's Canva. Let me resize this slightly. Resize in. I'm going to go just off screen where you can't see, but I'm going to grab that download we just created. I'm going to bring it in here. PDF comes in. I open it up real quick. We see it flash, and we detach image. There we go. Now we have this other frame. Now, I told you I'd show you a creative way you can use frames. So let me just come here under elements. Let me go under photos under here. So photos, see all. Let me see what I've recently used. This one here, let me drag this one in here. Now, you have to think about the frames you're creating and what's going to look good in this frame. So this might be creative here, but one of the things you can start to do with frames is sort of stack them with other frames and regular elements. So let me just show you what I mean. So if I come in here now and I can see that the bounds of this photo really stretch sort of to the edge of my frame, but I want them to go beyond the frame into the whole document. Now I know we're only going to see what's in the frame, but you'll see what I'm doing here once I go through this whole process. So I'm going to double click to sort of get inside here, and then I can see my actual photo, and then I'm sort of going to change this so I can see a little bit more. I'm going to resize this because what I want to do is get it positioned in the bottom corner of my document and then stretch it until it reaches that right edge of my document, okay? Then I'll click once out of that to commit that change. Then what I'm going to do is come under Elements, and I'm just going to add a normal frame. So this is not a custom frame, this is just a Canva frame. So this is a frame element that I can resize. So I'll just grab this one here, I'll resize it like that, and I'm going to take that and I will put it right there, and then I'll actually position it behind my other frame, but I can still get to it because it's not totally obscured from that. I can still put something in this. So let me come back under Elements. Let's find that same element. Let's put it in here. I'm going to double click into it just to make sure it's positioned exactly the same as the other one. And so now you can say, okay, well, what's the point of that? You can tell I don't have my alignment totally perfect, but it's pretty close. But you could say, okay, so what's the point of that? Well, now one of these is in a frame, just showing part of it, that love text that we brought out of here, and those butterflies. The other one is a background element. So I can come to that background element now. I can edit the photo, and I could do something like start to add one of these filters or something, and then suddenly that's making my framed element really pop out. So I'm just wanted to show you this because there are lots of ways you can now get creative with frames and combine them with other frames, combine them with backgrounds, combine them with this type of stacking technique, right? Where you're still seeing the whole photo, you're seeing the whole photo, but some of it showing a little bit different, okay? So this is custom frames. I hope you see now how easy the process is. I hope you start to take advantage of this process so you can create your own custom frames in Canva. And I actually have to show you one more thing to show you how you should organize your assets when you use custom frames like this. So one last example, I promise this is the last example, but this is a very important point. So you want to see this. You want to see me make this point here. Let's go back to this frame, and let's imagine that, hey, you think this frame is really cool. You can see yourself reusing this a lot. This is probably the idea you should adopt with frames. Usually when you create something, it might be one time for a project, but a lot of times you're thinking, hey, this is an element I like, this is an element I'm going to reuse, okay? So you want to save these off in a manner where you can access them very quickly in the future. But before you do that, you actually want to think about, is there anything else that you're always going to want as part of this design? So just a very simple example, let's imagine I always want this to have sort of a color behind it or a drop shadow, and so maybe I'll do something like I'll duplicate this frame. So I'll duplicate this frame. Now we have one on top, and for this one on top you can have an image in a frame, but you can also just put a color in a frame. So let me just put black in this frame, and then we just take this and position it on my layers. Let's just push it to the back, and so something like that. Now you could obviously do a lot more, and then you'd want to save all those steps. But let's just say you always want the frame to show up with this duplicate of a color behind it, right? And of course we can still go in here and we can still change the color to something else, but we want to make sure we have that duplicate. Even if it only takes us 10 seconds, 15 seconds to do that, that's 15 seconds we save every time we use this in the future. So now what you would do is you'd want to save this off to a folder. You may have noticed before when you have elements and you search for an element, let me just go under and see an element real quick, something like this. You get these three dots and you can add to folder, but a frame itself is not something you can add directly to a folder. So what you have to do is save the file off to a folder. So what I'm going to do here is this frame right here, and along with the layer we have behind it now, I'm going to go File, I'm going to go Save to Folder, and I'm going to save this off to my Favorite Frames folder. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Favorite Frames, Save, and now that is saved off to that Favorite Frames folder, so I can access it very quickly in the future. So here I am at some time in the future. I start something new, a new presentation. I'm like, hey, you know what would be really cool in here? I want to use that frame I created last week or whenever. Then all you need to do is come under your projects tab. You're going to come under the folders. You're going to search for that folder where you stored it. And then suddenly you can see all your favorite frames in here. Boom, you can pop one in just like that. And then so easy, you can come in here. You can upload this to very easy, change something else. So you can very easily drop in another piece of content, right? But you're making use of this as a reusable asset. and the things like this background color behind it, you don't have to redo that because you already did that work. So this is a smart workflow. This is an organizational strategy which you should adopt. So I hope now you understand how to create custom frames, but I also hope you will adopt this smart organizational strategy when you create assets like this, just so you can make use of them very quickly in the future. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you found this at all helpful, you can click subscribe so you get more content like this in the future. Thanks again.